Count it all joy, Charles is back online. The Equally Yoked Show. Get yoked for free. Count it all joy, Charles is back online. The Equally Yoked Show. Get yoked for free. Count it all joy, Charles is back online. The Equally Yoked Show. Get yoked for free.
Welcome back to the podcast. Honored to be with you today. We've got a crazy show for you with everything that is happening concerning Donald Trump, the incredible bombshell of what is going on in Ukraine and the chief of staff. We're going to be going over some of that information, but of course, there is some new information when it comes to immigration. Obviously, we've been on this conversation for quite some time, and takes this back to really since the start of the ICE raids. And as we go through this stuff, we're going to unpack quite a few things for you. Hopefully, I can give you some clarity when it comes to the issues that we are seeing today. Now, of course, what the things that we're going to be going over with immigration, with what Trump is going to begin doing, or rather what he has already done. Also, what is happening in Ukraine, and some more information concerning the sort of prophetic thing when it comes to Putin and his advancement in this war. But as we continue on, as we allow folks to join into the podcast, it is, of course, Friday, Black Friday. Those of you who are just joining in the stream, let me know where you are watching from, what time it is. And of course, did you do Black Friday shopping? Not that it really matters, but of course, seems to be every year, Black Friday seems to be getting worse and worse. And why I say that, just of a side topic, Black Friday getting worse and worse is simply a lot of the prices. There's no really good discounts, quite honestly. I mean, you see these same deals year round. It's kind of dumb, but otherwise, welcome to the show. We're going to be going over some crazy headlines concerning this. Now, if we're projected to not get our usual audience in here, then we will most certainly shift gears here. So guys that are just joining in, welcome to the stream. This is the Equally Yoked Show, And consider subscribing, consider liking, sharing, subscribing, all that good stuff. Where are you guys watching from? There's a couple of you just joining in. Appreciate y'all for being here. We're going to be going over this crazy stuff concerning what Trump is doing, what the Trump administration is doing. And then we're going to be looking at a lot of stuff, a lot of stuff. And so this could potentially be a longer show, or we'll cut it short and we'll do something else and switch gears. Of course, guys, this topic of, this is a side note. Maybe I should just get out of the screen because we're not going to be talking about that until more folks start to join in. But the side note of Israel and the future of Israel and everything that is happening concerning Israel, concerning their existence, where people are believing this lie that the current Israeli population, the modern day Israel, is not the same Israel as ancient Israel, that they don't deserve this land. And I think it's more of a goalpost shifting, and people like to shift the goalpost, and they really like to try to figure out ways to debunk the scriptures when God is clear that he will bring his nations, he'll bring his people back from the nations. Now, Dennis, welcome. You are from Copenhagen, Denmark. Glad to have you here. And thanks for joining us. Others that are just joining in, please let me know where you're watching from. We're going to be going over quite a few things concerning what the Trump administration is doing and everything else with that regard. But going back to this topic of Israel for just a moment, of course, this always brings out hate. It brings out the best of hate in most people, unfortunately. But when it comes to scripture, when it comes to God proving his word to be true, people then try to debunk, and they try to call contradiction on God's perfect scripture. Now, we can go into that on another sort of podcast or later on in the show if you guys are interested in the topic concerning Israel and its existence and the modern day Israel and where it actually says that God will regather his people from the nations. Then we'll go there, and we can most certainly talk about that. Now, people will also say, you're getting paid $7,000, which I don't really understand where this meme comes from. Maybe somebody can enlighten me in the chat. But otherwise, get your coffee ready. We're going to be going over some crazy news stories concerning everything in America, everything across the globe. We're going to be diving into some states like Tennessee. And we're going to be diving into some states like Minnesota and what's happening with the Somali community. And a lot of stuff going on here. So as we allow more folks to join in here, guys, like the show. Let's like the show. And if you can, I think you can do a hype. I think there's a hype feature where you can hype a certain channel or video, and it'll actually move the page up in the, I don't know, it's a new thing with YouTube. So I appreciate if you guys do hype this channel. Okay, so what's going on here? So we see Donald Trump. Okay, Donald Trump had posted this on Truth Social. We might revisit this later on in the podcast if you guys, if the ones that are just joining in and podcast, where you're kind of getting lost, then we'll jump back to this post. This is Truth Social saying, Trump saying, even as we have progressed technologically, immigration policy has eroded those gains and living conditions for many. I will permanently pause migration from all third world countries to allow the U.S. system to fully recover, terminate all the millions of Biden illegal admissions, including those signed by sleepy Joe Biden's auto pen, and remove anyone who is not a net asset to the United States, that is key, or is incapable of loving our country. End all federal benefits and subsidies to non-citizens of our country, denaturalize migrants who undermine domestic tranquility, Ilhan Omar, and deport any foreign national who is a public charge, security risk or non-compatible with Western civilization. These goals will be, now there's caveats within this topic here, within this conversation, within this post. There's little nuggets of these are the conditions if you want to continue to live here. But people will possibly bypass all of those and just say Trump wants to get rid of everybody that is a non-US citizen. It's possible that some are thinking that. I don't know. I'm curious. I don't have a Truth Social, but I'm curious to see the comments concerning this, which I imagine is probably a lot of hate. Maybe. Dennis, you say, I stayed in Israel years back when Netanyahu got elected. A lot of the young population was protesting against him. Yeah, there's actually a huge number of people that actually don't. I think a big majority of Israel doesn't appreciate or doesn't favor the Netanyahu administration. And it's interesting how their politics work. We can go into that on another podcast, but they also have a left and a right. Now Netanyahu's side may be considered right, and like the Likud party, I think it's the Likud party, is with Naftali Bennett, which would be considered the left side of the aisle. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but yeah, a lot of people were protesting against him, and why that is, that's for some other conversation for another day. Trump 2028, yeah, actually, I saw he posted a Truth Social of a picture of him holding a sign that says Trump 2028, and he said Trump. What did he say? Trump something. Anyway, glad to have you guys here that are just joining in. It seems like our usual audience is, for whatever reason, not here. But glad to have you guys here. The reason why I like to have the audience join in and for everybody to sort of, begin the conversation in the chat, it helps to gauge where the audience is concerning these issues that I'm bringing up. And so, again, it is the holiday weekend. A lot of people are doing their most places are probably already closed, but otherwise they did their Black Friday shopping. They're doing their gift wrapping. They're not going to be on YouTube watching podcasts. And if you're here, God bless you. Thank you for being here. So let's continue on here. So it says, these goals will be pursued with the aim of achieving a major reduction in illegal and disruptive populations, including those admitted through an unauthorized and illegal AutoPen approval process. Only reverse migration can fully cure the situation. Other than that, happy Thanksgiving to all, except those that hate, steal, murder, destroy everything that America stands for. You won't be here for long. Wow. Do I normally have more right-wingers here? No, I actually have a lot of left leaning political commenters in this chat. Generally, that's the case. Generally, it's those who oppose Trump. It's those who oppose his policies. It's those who want basically the policies of Joe Biden, which is flood America with, rather involve America into endless wars. Those of the Dick Cheney type, and many others. Lindsey Graham. I mean, come on. So this usual stream, we do have those who I believe have a sound mind in this chat, will offer up some really good fact checking to those who are just looking at things one-sided. So that's an answer to your question, Killer Boba. So let's recap this for a moment. The caveats here are somebody who is incapable of loving our country, somebody who is not a net asset to the United States, people who undermine domestic tranquility, somebody who is a public charge, security risk, or non-compatible with Western civilization, possibly referring to Islam. the Islamic practicing faith? Because that's the common phrasing utilized when it comes to the religion of Islam. It is non-compatible with Western civilization. Really, any type of religion. I mean, here's the funny thing about separation of church and state. First of all, separation of church and state, this idea that people believe, for whatever reason, they believe this is a sort of constitution, sort of something that Thomas Jefferson said, and because Thomas Jefferson said this, they believe that there's a separation of church and state. When really it is not in our documents that establish or really help us to run this country. You say, just to test the pardon off Juan Orlando Hernandez. Great. I haven't looked into Juan Orlando Hernandez. I'm not sure. Mark, you say it's an ideology, not a religion. Ideology, are you referring to Islam? Islam is a religion. Am I getting that correct? Is that the question or the statement you're talking about? It says, do you believe the U.S. have separation of state and religion? I think I understand your question. There might be a typo. I think you might, maybe you're saying, do you believe the U.S. should have separation of church and state? No. Why? Because this country was founded upon Judeo-Christian values. Got it. You say you can't type fast enough. Yeah, feel free to flesh out your comment. I mean, you only have 200 characters. It's a little difficult. I understand that, but feel free to flesh that out a little bit more. This country, this nation was founded on Judeo-Christian values. You go through the 13 documents of the original colonies. Not only that, do you have the what the purpose of the pilgrims coming into, and we went over this on the last podcast, the pilgrims coming to America, establishing the Mayflower Compact. I think that's the document. I might be slipping my mind. It's Mayflower Compact, I believe. Establishing the Mayflower Compact, and what their purpose was is to further the gospel of Jesus Christ. And this was known as the Plymouth Settlement, as opposed to the 1619 project that everybody likes to refer to, which was Jamestown. And I believe that's this comment that just came in, Tanaz, saying built in racism. I think he meant built on racism. Also, the Bible was used to justify it. Look, people use the Bible to justify anything. Does it mean it's true? No, you got to go back and search the scripture and to see if what they're trying to utilize, whatever the Bible, like apparently Hitler using the Bible. Jerry, you're leaving so soon. Hey, brother, hope you have a good night. I'm headed to bed early. God bless you. Thanks for being here, brother. Appreciate it. You're going to miss a big show. You can always go back and watch it. Or you can grab some coffee. You can stay with us for a little while. Okay, let's we can talk about all that stuff later. Look, this is Trump who's saying that he's permanently pausing migration from all third world countries. Now we can go into this sort of definitions of third world countries. And so there's little caveats to what he's saying here, as I mentioned earlier. And for those that are just joining in, we're talking a lot about what Trump is saying concerning immigration, concerning the UK, and everything that is happening with the top chief of staff who is resigning. So third world countries would be, yeah, we can go into the sort of definitions of those. But anyway, looks like some of the, according to this chart, 2023, South Sudan, Somalia, Central African Republic, Chad, Niger, Mali, Burundi, Burkina Faso, Sierra Leone, Yemen, Madagascar, Mozambique, Afghanistan, Ethiopia, Guinea, Eritrea, Libya, Sudan, Djibouti, Guinea, Bissau, Benin, Malawi, Congo, Gambia, Senegal, Pakistan. It's pretty much almost basically the Middle East and African nations. Look at that. Third world countries of 2025. Yeah, so there's this map here. I mean, it's not even worth pulling it up, I guess, but it's basically showing some of the Middle East area, some of the Asian countries, part of the Asian hemisphere. South, pretty much, I mean, mid Africa, below, towards South Africa. A lot of those countries that are considered third world. And so Trump's saying that he's pausing, permanently pausing. Now, this possibly is with regard to what's even happening in Minnesota with Somalia. Zach, welcome. Glad to have you here. Somebody said we have a state religion in Denmark, but in reality, the country is secular. No politicians mention religion or swear on the Bible in court. Yeah, the third world country definition doesn't really apply anymore. We do teach religion in school, but they should be taught equal. I think what the important thing, I think somebody who does speak on this matter, effectively is Charlie Kirk, who understood what education actually is, the sort of meaning behind education. But it's the lifelong, according to this sort of definition that you can find immediately, the lifelong acquiring knowledge of skills, values, and habits to foster personal, social, and professional growth, but otherwise seeking what is good, what is beautiful about life. A lot of these things that we can go into later, but otherwise, as we continue on here, have you guys, I want to get your guys' reaction to the stuff that the news stories that we're seeing when it comes to Trump canceling all executive orders under Biden. Okay, there's all that going on. But we're also going to be going over in a moment, the top negotiator resigning, top negotiator of Ukraine for the Ukraine Russian war. We're going to be going over that in a moment. But let's take a look at this other Truth Social post concerning the removal here we go. Let's take a look at this. Truth Social says, any document signed by Sleepy Joe Biden with the auto pen, which was approximately 92% of them, is hereby terminated and of no further force or effect. Now, when Biden entered office, he immediately ended or undid a lot of those executive orders from Trump and his administration back in 2016. The auto pen is not allowed to be used if approval is not specifically given by the President of the United States. Now, Biden is saying that he was present. We can go into those specifics later, but otherwise it says the radical left lunatics circling Biden around the beautiful Resolute desk in the Oval Office took the presidency away from him. So he's even almost somewhat coming to his defense, saying, look, I mean, probably somewhat referencing the deep state, but it says, I am hereby canceling all executive orders and anything else that was not directly signed by crooked Joe Biden, because the people who operated the AutoPen did so illegally. Joe Biden was not involved in the AutoPen process, and if he says he was, he will be brought up on charges of perjury. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Fascinating, fascinating. What do you guys think? What are your guys' thoughts concerning this news that is somewhat breaking? I mean, we're obviously going to this, doing this later on in the day, and fascinating stuff. So we're going to be taking a look at, obviously, what happened recently. We're going to bring you some of Trump's remarks from yesterday, or from 2 days ago, rather, from the National Guard shooting. We're going to segue that into the topic of this person, if he was vetted to come into the country. We're gonna find out something actually kind of fascinating concerning that. And so let's take a look at this clip of President Trump and his remarks. And maybe you had seen this, but hopefully what I'm bringing to you is brand new to you. If you've never, if you haven't been following up on this stuff. So let's take a look.
I am determined to ensure that the animal who perpetrated this atrocity pays the steepest possible price. I can report tonight that based on the best available information, the Department of Homeland Security is confident that the suspect in custody is a foreigner who entered our country from Afghanistan, a hellhole on earth. He was flown in by the Biden administration in September 2021 on those infamous flights that everybody was talking about. Nobody knew who was coming in. Nobody knew anything about it. His status was extended under legislation signed by President Biden, a disastrous president, the worst in the history of our country. This attack underscores the single greatest national security threat facing our nation. The last administration let in 20 million unknown and unvetted foreigners from all over the world, from places that you don't want to even know about. No country can tolerate such a risk to our very survival. An example is Minnesota, where hundreds of thousands of Somalians are ripping off our country and ripping apart that once great state.
And most certainly what we've been seeing, I mean, I don't even know if Tim Walz is even talking about any of this, of what exactly is happening inside of his own state. So as we look into this for a moment, let's take a look at some of the information concerning Afghanistan. Because of the supposed vetting that was happening, wasn't actually happening. Because the internet is taking to storm and finding up and really just digging up all these clips of what Biden and his administration were saying during this time. It's great that we have this. It's great that we have AI to sift through and really find clips. I mean, people that do the research on this stuff to just really find out. Kudos to them. So here's Jen Psaki, press secretary, on Afghans being led into the country after the withdrawal. And she's saying, I can absolutely assure you that no one is coming to the United States of America who has not been through a thorough screening and background check process. Here we go.
You've talked about this a little bit, others have as well, but there are, of course, concerns among lawmakers, experts who've tracked this. They're saying previous arrivals of large numbers of refugees from different parts of the world, inevitably there may be a handful, small handful, who are eventually deemed a security risk of some kind. What reassurances can you make about the screening process and the attempts to make sure that somebody like that doesn't make his or her way here?
I can absolutely assure you that no one is coming into the United States of America who has not been through a thorough screening and background check process. And there are many individuals, as you noted, who have not been through that process, and they have gone to lily pad countries as that process has been completed. It doesn't mean that that's because there's a flag. It means they have not completed their paperwork, and we were working to save tens of thousands of people. Hence, we evacuated them to these third countries.
And then you've talked about
And so as we continue on here, let's take a look at this clip. This is wild. This is Mayorkas admitting that 60,000 Afghans brought into the country after the botched withdrawal were not given in-person vetting interviews. Here
The
we go.
standard procedure is an in-person interview for refugees or visa applicants. Now, you've testified that you're not doing those interviews.
Not at all.
That they're not happening.
You are correct that we are not conducting in-person full refugee interviews of 100% of the individuals.
What
that are
percentage
brought
are you
here.
conducting?
I don't have that information.
What number have
What
been
we-
interviewed?
What we are doing.
Wait. What number of the more than 60,000 brought to the country? What number have received an input?
So as we look, you can't get around this. There's no way of getting around the Biden administration and the lies that they continue to try to fool the American people. And they're still trying to do it again. Especially with the government shutdown, with the Epstein files, and everything in between. But we really know what their playbook is getting old at this point.
Person interview before they came to the country, because you said 100% are screened. So what percentage have been given an actual interview by a trained official before they come to the country?
When you're speaking of a full refugee-like interview, I don't have that data.
By the way, are you following what's happening to people who've been brought to this country? On September 19th, a female U.S. service member was assaulted by a group of male Afghan evacuees housed at Fort Bliss. September 5th, a report from your office, the DHS, from U.S. officials at intake centers in Wisconsin identified numerous incidents in which Afghan girls have been presented to authorities as the underage wives of much older men. Other reports of assaults and rapes by Afghan men for Afghan girls. These are some of the folks who have been brought here because they haven't been screened, because you haven't conducted interviews. Don't you think that's a problem?
There are two things that can happen. They can be criminally prosecuted depending on the reason for their violation.
Mr. Secretary, my time's expired. I've got to turn it over to other senators. I just want to say the fact that you are not conducting the most standard interviews for tens of thousands of people brought to this country is astounding to me. And it seems to me you've not learned the most basic lessons that we learned on 9/11 since then. And the security risk is unbelievable. Thank you, Mr.
Wild. So we're going to continue on this train because it's fascinating. So this is Blinken, right? Anthony Blinken, who is saying no vetting was done for Afghans back in 2021. Secretary Blinken acknowledged that the U.S. evacuated first and vetted later. This is the Angle reported what followed.
In our effort to get as many people out as fast as we can, while we had the airport functioning, we focused on doing just that, and we're doing accountings on the back end as people arrive in the United States.
So we're not going to play this full 2-minute clip, but this is from the Laura Ingram Angle X account that you can go and take a look. So what we have going on, sorry, I just saw the next thing that I wanted to show of Zelensky, who is possibly, I don't know. I have my thoughts on Zelensky and what potentially flew out of his nose. Maybe not. I don't know. So going back to this National Guard, the alleged National Guard shooter, there's some details concerning this man. And let's take a look. And let me bring you into the shot here. Okay. Guys, if you're just joining in, please consider liking, sharing, subscribing, and email me your thoughts, freedom@equallyyokeshow.com. We've got quite a few things to go over concerning this, but this Laura Burns, who's diving deeper into this how this man was let in the first place. Okay. We're not going to be going over the whole clip. You can check the clip out later, but otherwise, this is an ex FBI agent who's revealing some insights here. So let's take a look.
There was a lack of preparation for what that evacuation process of our allies would actually look like and entail, and the challenges that they would face. And there were many challenges. You know, we had hundreds of thousands of Afghan nationals who assisted our forces in various capacities and you know, risked their lives. But the ability to vet individuals in that chaotic environment was extremely difficult because of the naming conventions that were in Afghanistan. Some individuals used first name only. There were lacks of date of birth. There were lacks of identification documents. And so when you're talking about thousands of people fleeing violence and flooding onto planes, we weren't prepared.
Now, also talk about the man who, on his issued driver's license in California, had no name given on the driver's license. Literally says no name given. How does that even happen? How is that even allowed? It's because of what the left wants to continue doing, and Gavin Newsom wants to continue to drive California just down a deep, dark hole. I honestly don't see how anybody could want to elect Gavin Newsom as a president. I really don't. I think AOC has a better shot. Realistically. She's a whole nother conversation that we're going to be going over, you know, at another time. But otherwise, we're going to switch gears here in a moment. But of course, this whole Ukraine and Russian war that we've been seeing for the last couple of years, since 2022, we had the full-scale invasion of what was beginning to take place under the Biden administration. Of course, Trump has, touted that if he was president, this wouldn't have happened. But for almost 4 years, we've seen no progress. No progress at all. And we saw multiple, over 360 billion sent to Ukraine. That was our hard-earned tax dollars going to a waste of a war. And let me emphasize, no progress. But the chief of staff, in the midst of the Ukraine corruption scandal, which he's being investigated, resigns. Here it says, a political earthquake in Ukraine has taken place as President Volodymyr Zelensky, Chief of Staff Andriy Yermak, the country's second most powerful person, was forced to resign amid a corruption scandal. He was skimming money from America. Whoa. It says this comes as Ukraine is enmeshed in negotiations with the Trump administration in a possible end to Russia's war in Ukraine. It says Jack Hewson joins John Yang with the latest from Kyiv. And it goes to a sort of interview here. Let me see here. Let's see. Corruption. There is an embezzlement scandal that's enmeshing many high-ranking officials and the Zelensky circle. And so Jack goes on to say, well, the scandal is about an investigation by the anti-corruption authorities called Operation Midas, which has resulted in a string of high-level raids and charges over the last month. There have been a laundry list of high-ranking cabinet officials, including a former deputy prime minister, who have been either charged or named. It says the cornerstone figure of this is a man named Timur Mandich, I think is his last name. It says the former president, former business partner of Zelensky, with whom he set up a media company before he was president. It says, and Mandich and his broader group of appointees and ministers were accused of embezzling $100 million worth of public money that was supposed to be spent on the energy sector. Instead, it was embezzled allegedly through inflating infrastructure procurement contracts and siphoning off funds. So now, with Ukraine under daily bombardment by Russian drones and missiles, which are blowing up electricity stations and substations, causing blackouts. As you can imagine, Ukrainians are absolutely furious at this time of suffering. These cabinet ministers have allegedly been stealing public money that should have been spent on fixing this electricity grid instead of enriching themselves. Interesting. Now, this is a war that has gone on for far too long. For the amount of deaths that have happened since the start of this war. I mean, really, we've seen the clip of Kamala Harris, or maybe you have, maybe you haven't, of her talking about the advancement of, rather the, not the advancement, but bringing in Ukraine into the NATO nations. Shortly after that, we saw the invasion begin. But there's just so much happening here when it comes to this war. And again, I think Charlie Kirk, being as prophetic as I believe he was, had a interview with Paul Ray, Dr. Paul Ray, concerning Putin possibly in too deep to seek a deal or to seek peace in Ukraine. Let's take you to that clip now.
Putin has gotten himself into a corner where if he ends this war with anything but something that can be represented as a great victory, he will be toast. He has stirred up Russian nationalism, focused it on the Ukraine issue. He has sacrificed innumerable Russian lives at the front. And if he has very little to show for it, it's over for him. I don't think he has room to move. Going in there was one of the stupidest things he could conceivably have done. But, he thought it was going to be a cakewalk. And what does that say about Russian intelligence? That a country next to them, the language is very similar to Russian, and they can't tell that these people are prepared to fight? That's really quite remarkable. Must be an awful lot of people around Trump, around Putin, who are afraid to tell him the truth. And that's probably still true, I'm afraid.
And again, I think just a sort of wild interview. If you go through and watch the entire podcast of it, maybe we'll get some more concerning this. I want to know you guys' thoughts concerning Ukraine, the Russia-Ukraine war, if this has been a war that we've been far too involved with. Now, it's funny because we had the in the Capitol, in the, I think it's what, in the Rotunda is what is where this happened, where behind Zelensky, where he went to go speak. I don't think it's called the Capitol Rotunda. Anyway, where Zelensky spoke, and behind him was the scenery of Kamala Harris and Nancy Pelosi. And they were, it was a Ukraine flag being flown. This was quite a sight to see. I mean, why would anybody, why would you fly a Ukrainian flag with, this is just treason at the highest level. Is that even the right way to explain it? Treason, maybe, I don't know. But most certainly, this was just traitor nonsense. And he's there asking the American public, you got to give me more money. Give me more money. I need to fight this war. And of course, the top Zelensky aide, who is in the, it's crazy what he did also with Trump and Vance in the White House. And you're right. Somebody said, who cares about these other countries? America first. Yes, America first. But the problem with this issue with Ukraine and Russia and the war that is happening. And somebody said earlier, I thought Trump could end this in 24 hours. I think Trump underestimated how deep this war actually was, how deep Biden got us into this war with the financials, with the military aid, the so much. And of course, I think Trump has obviously a heart for those that are dying. He's often referenced how many are dying during this war, this tragic war. 7,000, to the tune of 7,000 a week, I believe. 7,000 a week or 7,000 a month. I forget the how much in that duration of time. But gosh, we've got tons of stuff to cover still. Tons of stuff to cover. Guys, please like the show and consider subscribing if you like what you're seeing thus far. Let's continue on with this a little bit longer, this interview here.
So, Dr. Ray, that's a phenomenal analysis, but I want to zero in on your answer. You say, yes, he's going to continue brokering it. To what end? Till he reaches Kiev? Till he reaches, the middle point or the center part of the country? So you're saying he's going to keep on brokering it. What would the final objective be, and what would then a reasonable victory for Putin be?
Well, one of the problems is I'm not sure he knows what the final objective is. Oftentimes, countries go to war without a clear understanding of the mission. I think that was true for us in Vietnam 50 years ago. We didn't really quite know what victory would mean, and how you can't bring means and ends together unless you know what the end is. Now, I think the original end was to take Kyiv and to install a puppet government that would control the whole country, so that you would have a puppet under the Russians. But that's not going to happen. So I don't know what would count as victory. And keep in mind, he has to sell it as a victory to the Russian people, but not just to the Russian people, to that rather narrower group that is powerful in Russia.
Yeah, so as we continue to watch this develop, this is Putin. This is interesting because Putin also issues a new threat as Ukraine raises, or rather refuses to give up land. Here we go. This is a clip concerning his comments.
Putin says the U.S.'s peace plan could be a basis of a Ukraine deal, but says the war will end, quote, once Ukrainian troops withdraw from the territories they occupy. If they don't withdraw, we will achieve this through military means. Meanwhile, Ukraine's chief negotiator, Andriy Yermak, says as long as Zelensky is president, no one should count on us giving up territory. He will not sign away territory. The Constitution prohibits this. Nobody can do that unless they want to go against the Ukrainian Constitution and the Ukrainian people.
So that's what we're seeing with this sort of update of this war. We're not going to see this end at least anytime soon. Realistically, this is not looking good. But how prophetic? How prophetic? And so when we continue to see everything that is happening with, we see this the what just happened with the National Guards. We have also teachers who are accused in anti-ICE plot. Talking about threats to law enforcement amid alleged plots to attack agents and basically Todd reacting to Democrat lawmakers meeting with an illegal immigrant on America Reports. Here we go.
Chilling plot to attack ICE, potentially with explosive rounds. The man on the right is John Bennett. He served as an assistant principal at a high school in Virginia Beach. DHS says the case is indicative of the more than 1,100% increase in assaults against ICE agents. Joining us now is ICE Director Todd Lyons. Thank you very much, sir, for joining us. Rather disturbing details that we are learning about that.
By the way, it's this rhetoric that continues to put the ICE agents at really in danger because of the same type of rhetoric that we're getting from politicians who really want to see this happen, as if they just think that they just want to dehumanize them with the way that they speak about these agents, because of course the left is for immigration. They're pro-immigration, pro-illegal immigration. There's a difference. Trump is pro-legal immigration, but right now what we've seen with him temporarily pausing. Now, I'll go to that because we went over this at the top of the show, and I don't want to miss this. And I did forget to show you something about Zelensky. So this is at the top of the show, we talked about President Trump's Truth Social saying this: even as we have progressed technologically, immigration policy has eroded those gains and living conditions for many. He says, I will permanently pause migration from all third world countries to allow the U.S. system to fully recover, terminate all of the millions of Biden illegal admissions, including those signed by Sleepy Joe Biden's auto pen, and remove anyone who is not an asset to the United States. Now, these are key phrases here: who is not a net asset to the United States or is incapable of loving our country, end all federal benefits and subsidies to non-citizens of our country, denaturalize migrants who undermine domestic tranquility, deport any foreign national who is a public charge, security risk, or non-compatible with Western civilization. These goals will be pursued with the aim of achieving a major reduction in illegal and disruptive populations, including those admitted through an unauthorized and illegal auto pen approval process. Only reverse migration can fully cure this situation. Other than that, happy Thanksgiving to all, except those that hate, steal, murder, and destroy everything that America stands for. You won't be here for long. Now, we will most certainly go through a lot of more stuff concerning what's happening in Somalia, in Minnesota. Maybe we'll see if Tim Walz has even mentioned anything concerning what's happening in his own state. But this is the sort of last thing that I do want to end on, as we'll go and, provide more updates in the next podcast, possibly tomorrow, depending on how things are looking. But otherwise, this is wild. This is what people are saying. And look, I have my thoughts. People are saying that cocaine fell out of Zelensky's nose on camera. This person says, so I guess you could say things are back to normal. Now, look, I don't think that's what happened. I think it was just spit that came out of his mouth. Quite honestly, it doesn't look like cocaine. I don't think it. See, this is the image that you're seeing on the right is, I want to say 2 frames, and it lands right there, right at his nose. Again, I think people are just trying to make something out of nothing. And they, right, so you see something flying out. Okay, we can go back here. Okay, we're not going to. So here we go. Here we go. Okay, so you see as he says that, whatever word that he's saying, it's coming, it's going up and then down. So I think there was something that, either it could have been a piece of food, could have been just saliva. I mean, this happens to people who are just speaking. I don't think this is, and this is obviously the following frame. So whether this is actually cocaine, I don't know. That's what people are saying. And I honestly, I quite frankly don't believe it. I don't. And until we get further clarity, until we get confirmation, we just don't know. So I'm just reading your guys' final comments here. It says it's a booger. He's looking down. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Again, just based on this clip, looks like he spit something out, right? So this is the first frame of that, whatever that is, flying out. So I don't think it's anything other than maybe saliva or piece of food that just, shot out. Maybe, I don't know. But a lot of people online are saying that it's crack, possibly because, of his history and what he was involved with prior. I wouldn't doubt it. I honestly wouldn't doubt it. So, yeah, we've got a lot going on when it comes to what's happening in Ukraine and where this is even going to go in the first place. I don't know. I don't know what we're going to see in the next couple of, coming weeks, in the coming days, but hopefully we can provide you with, breaking information as all this comes out. Now, I did want to go over, we'll make you drool. Yeah, well, you got a point. And so YouTube, you say you wouldn't doubt someone you don't like is a drug user. Have you seen his history? Have you seen the videos of him and what he was involved with prior to becoming a president? Which, I think that he was possibly a plant, but a U.S. plant, obviously. But I think the dollars and what is being sent to Ukraine is possibly just because of the assets that America has. Marina Bowers, thank you for subscribing. Appreciate it. God bless you. One of the greatest supports that you guys can do. And please feel free to subscribe and like this show and this podcast. Share with your friends as we will continue to cover all of the stuff that is going on. Of course, I did want to go over what is happening in Tennessee for just a moment. And we'll go over the clips of Afton Ben concerning her hatred towards Tennessee. But the polls are showing that she's neck and neck in the special election, that she's running for Congress to replace former Representative Mark Green. And so the Emerson College and Hill survey released Wednesday showed Van Epps, former commissioner of Tennessee Department of General Services, at close to 48%, and Ben, a state representative, at 46% among likely voters and voters who have voted already. Close to 5% say they are undecided. And so it says, when factoring the undecideds, is that even a word? Factoring in undecideds, maybe it is, I don't know. It says, who are asked which candidate they're leaning toward, Van Epps sits at 49%, while Ben sits at 47%. Van Epps and Ben are running to replace Green in Tennessee's 7th congressional district after the former congressman resigned earlier this year to pursue an opportunity in a private sector. The special elections is December 2nd, so you still have time for those that are in Tennessee to go and early vote. I really don't think that you would want somebody who hates Tennessee to represent you. I'd imagine you'd want the opposite, the one who loves Tennessee, the one who, loves. I think there was a clip circulating, which we got to get that clip for you guys to watch. Also, the Matt Van Epps, who's talking about family, who's talking about, loving Tennessee and such, and who knows? I don't know. I think we got to look more into what exactly is happening in Tennessee. And for those that want to chime in, of course, please email me your thoughts concerning Tennessee, concerning what is happening if you live there. She's had some wild tweets concerning tweets that have been deleted, saying good morning, especially to the 54% of Americans that believe burning down a police station is justified. And it says, let's go Tennessee teachers. We have your back. But the context is concerning the Los Angeles Teachers Union that demands that districts commit to defunding police as a precondition for reopening schools amid COVID-19. And then also, she's talking about where's the proposal that dissolves the Minnesota Police Department, Nashville. So a lot of other stuff here that she's being deemed as the AOC of Tennessee. I don't know. What are you guys thinking concerning that? Because we've got a lot to we've got a lot to cover over that situation. Zach, thank you so much. Like and subscribe, share the podcast, and guys, I want to know your thoughts concerning this. And we are going to be ending the show just about now. And of course, if you guys like what you guys heard, you guys like what you saw, please consider subscribing. And I want you guys to continue chatting in the podcast and in the chat, and really just talk about all of this stuff. I did talk about, early at the top of the show about this conversation concerning the current Israelites versus the modern day Israel versus the ancient Israel, which the conversation is always, God bless you. Thank you for the amazing videos as always. This is amazing. There's just so much to cover. I mean, James Comey and, James Comey and Letitia James, the indictments, the dismissal on the indictments, which, we're also looking at Pam Bondi's response concerning that. We're looking at California spending over $450 million on a new 911 system, is now scrapping the flawed design. I mean, Californians, we just continue to say, take my money. More taxes, bring it on. Gavin Newsom's inner circle, the FBI sends... the multiple aides receive ominous letter from the FBI. We're looking at all of that stuff. And I think it will be for a podcast to go over tomorrow. We'll be looking at James Comey's wonderful response. And then, of course, this nasty podcast with Joy Reid talking about Erica Kirk and the hug that she gave J.D. Vance, and talking about weird stuff. These are just evil conversations that these people are talking about. Anyway, America First, remember, talk about something that really matters here at home. Look, America First, yes, we need to get Americans out of being renters and then into owners. The files, as they begin to be released, in December, I believe it is, sometime in December. And Joy Reid is racist. That's just true. And she also loves, there's a interview, maybe we'll pull it up at some point, but she was defending the child PORN books that a mom was doing in I forget the company, or not the company, the organization that she is a part of. And she's showing Joy Reid all of the examples, and Joy Reid is completely defending the position of these nasty authors of these books. Don't worry about California. California carries the USA. As California goes, the rest of the nation goes, of course. Same thing with New York. Same thing with New York. New York, man. And, you know, the funny thing, too, is Zoran Mamdani not the interview, but the meeting with Trump, saying that Trump was all buttered up by Zoran. And look, this just shows you that Trump can clearly have conversations with people who disagree with him. And even the sort of maybe harsh, intense language that Zoran Mamdani was portraying prior to, you know, obviously calling him a fascist. And he still said he held to that view, you know, even after interviews, he still held to that view, and it wasn't changing or anything like that. But honestly, I don't know. Zoran is a wild card. Once he gets into office, I think then we can criticize much more rather than what he's just saying. You know, so we're going to look at that later. And you're saying Trump defended Zoran. Look, I think he appreciates that. Obviously, Trump loves New York, but he appreciates that he wants New York to also be affordable. Now, they had many disagreements. They had disagreements, or even though they have disagreements, they really focused on, and this is what's something that Zoran Mamdani kept going back to, that they focused on really just affordability in New York. And even with the hot questions that were being asked, they weren't really being answered. They were just kind of being, well, the conversations we had were more about the things that we agreed upon. And ultimately, look, this was not Riz from Zoran. This was, what did we expect to happen? What we got with Zelensky being in the White House? That crazy, hot, not even debate, I guess somewhat of a debate. But I think this is just crazy. Yeah, you're right, Hans. You say, what's Trump supposed to do? Mock him? Look, Trump was there was nothing that was going to happen like some kind of insane social media clip that was, you know, they had a meeting prior. They had a private meeting, and then they went to do sort of press questions. So there wasn't going to be this, I don't know, what would you even call it? This hot moment in the White House. But he continues to ask for more money because he needs the money to get started ground one. He's getting his advice from Obama. That's a good idea. But anyway, guys, consider subscribing to the podcast. Thanks so much for being here. And if you guys have any final thoughts, put them in the chat. Continue the discussion. Continue the what we're talking about. And we're going to be going over this stuff later on in the next podcast. Tomorrow we'll be here about the same time, maybe earlier in the day. I don't know. No, that's not going to happen. Not early in the day. Later on in the night, and then we're going to be going over some more stuff concerning the AOC of Tennessee, and you'll see the clip here, some of the stuff that we're going to be going over. And this is one of the quotes that she says, and we'll talk about that another time. Guys, thanks so much for being here, and yeah, keep the chat going, at least for a little while longer. I'll have it there. Thanks so much for listening. God bless.